Hi, I'm very happy to be here today with you. Today I brings you a horror movie, Shrews Nest, talk about a madly murdering woman, but all must have reasons behind, right? Why is she so crazy to kill people? The sisters Montse and Hermana are reading a few verses from the Bible. Unlike most other children, Hermana's worst childhood memory was at the moment. Montse told stories before going to bed each night. She always reads horror stories about demons. The cannibal demon is always watching over humans. Little Hermana was forced to pretend to sleep in order to hide from hearing stories, but she knew very well that Montse was sad and left. At that moment, she thought that her sister knew she was pretending to sleep, but it was years later that Hermana learned that, every time she closed the door, her sister had to face it to the cannibal in her soul. The book frightened Hermana. It is the Bible in the hands of her sister. And Montse's nightmare started when her mother passed away. She told her sister that her mother passed away while giving birth to Hermana. This makes her feel like the comet of this family. Montse works as a sewing worker to support his sister. Two sisters rely on each other to live. Life is considered okay. Today is Hermana's 18th birthday. Montse bought a bouquet of flowers for his sister. Also, don't forget to tell her to visit her mother's grave. She was about to go out when the neighbor came to measure her clothes. She's always been interested in Montse and Hermana. She didn't forget to give Hermana some money today, to wish her a happy birthday. When Hermana was gone, the neighbor told Montse that Hermana had grown up. Sooner or later she will marry her husband, then leave. Hearing that, Montse's expression was very bad. She doesn't like this problem, but obviously compared to the sister, Montse's story was more serious. For years, she had never been out the door. The mental state was getting worse. The neighbor brought her a pot of morphine. Her husband is a doctor. She wants Montse to cure her, because sooner or later Hermana will be leaving. It's not good to keep going like this. Speaking of which, her eyes were red. Temporarily agreeing, the neighbor left. Montse drank the potion. It was not until evening that she was awakened by the sound of the door opening. She assumed it was a younger sister, but unexpectedly it was the father who had been missing for a long time. He stared at Montse. Looks like you didn't go to the cemetery again this year. I am ashamed of you. Montse regained consciousness in fear. Fortunately, just now it was just a nightmare. At this point, Hermana is not home yet. She went to the window when she saw her sister kissing a man. Anger immediately came. Montse's hands gripped the curtains tightly, causing it to fall. She knocked out the candle beside her. Hermana casually entered the house. She didn't think she would be questioned by her sister. She explained that it was just a friend. He took her home just to be safe. Montse heard that, the more angry. She hit her sister's hand with a rattan whip. Hermana could no longer accept her sister's paternalism. She said Montse was really crazy. The more she angered, the more she slapped her sister. Hermana finally couldn't take it anymore. Said Hermana, "Any man can't do more damage to me than you." Montse was furious. She intended to hit Hermana, but Hermana took the table and beat her sister, then run away in panic. Hermana, limbs trembling, opened the door. She stormed out at the last second, before being caught up by her sister. Montse chased. She angrily looked at the door, but dare not step out. She could only angrily look at her sister, then slammed the door. Not knowing how long Hermana slept on the ground. At this time, there are two men arguing. The man named Carlos seemed to have done something wrong, so he was about to leave for a while. When he left, he told his friend, "Don't forget to put a blanket on her." Early the next morning, Montse apologized to his sister, but Hermana is still angry. There are some things that cannot be resolved with apology. Hermana just left. Montse lifted his head and saw his father sitting opposite. Suffering memories immediately flooded. She drank morphine again and lay on her bed. Suddenly there was a bang on the door, making her wake up. She ventured to open the door when Carlos' face appeared. He just fell down the stairs, praying for her help. Just finished speaking, he immediately fainted. At first Montse didn't want to save him, but looking at the picture of Jesus saving on the wall, she also softened. She tried to drag him into the house. She tried her best to get him to bed. Montse had not seen a stranger for many years. She gently wiped the blood from Carlos' face. Take off the blood-stained shirt. When the finger touches the other person, feeling a strange warmth, Montse now noticed that his right leg was broken. Hermana came home to find that her sister had installed the door and found it a little strange. She made up a reason so she didn't say there was a man in the house. She was extremely nervous, even breaking the statue. Finally, at the end of the laundry, she discovered that Carlos' shirt was stained with blood. Montse couldn't hide it anymore. Had to take his sister to the bedroom to see Carlos. Carlos still hasn't woken up yet. Hermana assumed that her sister beat him. She didn't listen to Montse's explanation. Hurry back to the room to lock the door. She is extremely scared. She felt the Lord on the cross watching her, so got up again and threw it under the bed. The next day, at breakfast time, Montse threatened Hermana. If Hermana had talked about this with someone else, then she won't let her in the house anymore. Hermana went outside. Not long after she was gone, Carlos woke up. Montse opened the door hesitantly. Dare not look at that man. She tried to go into the room, lied that the doctor fixed his leg, and told him not to get into bed. After saying thanks, Carlos sat up to ask her to help him home. Montse didn't want to let him go, convince him to stay. She was always at home so she could take care of Carlos. As she went to get her lunch, Montse looked at herself in the mirror. She adjusted her hair. She is now like a girl in love. Hermana returned home, and locked herself in her room again. Montse knocked on the door, telling his sister. She kept Carlos. At midnight, Hermana sneaked into the other bedroom. She told Carlos that he shouldn't stay here. She insisted that her psychotic sister heard him. He turned on the light and immediately recognized her, but he did not have time to explain. When Montse suddenly knocked on the door, Hermana hurriedly hid under the bed. Montse heard the noise and assumed that Carlos was in pain. He said he dreamed. After she left, Hermana got out in panic. She reminded Carlos carefully. Her sister is not an ordinary person. When he first saw Hermana, Carlos said that he liked girls like that. He asked if she would come tomorrow. Hermana agrees. She was about to leave when there was a knock on the door. She hurriedly hid behind the door. Montse brought a morphine to Carlos for him, but she said it was holy water. Not saying that she added morphine, Hermana sneaked when her sister talked to Carlos to escape. The day the neighbor came to pick up her dress had come. In case she found out about Carlos, Montse added morphine again to his drinking water. When she gave him rice, she helped him clean himself. She felt his skin casually. Enjoy this incredible feeling. She asked about Carlos's background. He said he inherited the property of his parents. Life is also quite good. Before Montse left, he handed her the key. He asked her to take some books. Carlos did not know about this woman. It is an impossible task. Montse did not want to leave the house before, but when listening to Carlos' request, suddenly there was a longing in her heart. So she called the neighbor's husband, the doctor, and asked him to help her. The doctor told her to take a step. Montse just took a step out. Then his breathing immediately becomes intense. She couldn't help but exclaimed. Then she even vomited on the floor. Even so, she is still very happy. She even told Hermana that she was going to try again. When my sister heard that, she was glad that she finally thought it right. She also guessed it was probably because of Carlos. Montse said he was always kept in this house. His appearance, as a piece of reality to come in here. She felt she had to take it. At this moment, Hermana forgave her sister. She decided to help her sister to continue going out. But that night, Montse was mentally obsessed. When she sat makeup in front of the mirror, the father reappears in the back. He put his hand on her shoulder. Said she was like her mother. Not needing makeup is also very beautiful. Montse trembled, unable to control but shed tears. Now Hermana changed into a flower dress to Carlos's room. He seems very weak. Hermana didn't understand why he didn't go. He told her that he was originally running away. And hiding here probably wouldn't be a bad thing either. But she told him that Montse didn't intend to let him leave. She is kidnapping him. While talking, Carlos hurt more and more. He said Hermana asked her sister to get him a glass of water. Only now did he know that Montse always gave him morphine. Carlos hurt so much he lost consciousness. He watched as Hermana called out another woman's name. Always say sorry. She was afraid her sister was coming, running out in panic. Montse heard a sound when he rushed over. After giving him the morphine, she fell asleep beside the bed. Hermana, seeing that the two of them were both awake, sneaked upstairs. At this time, a woman brought her father. She and they passed through each other. The girl took the key to open the door for the police to enter. Montse found that morphine was gone after waking up. She calls her neighbor. She lied that she had a headache and needed more medicine, but giving morphine to her was inherently illegal. To get the medicine, Montse agreed to make a free wedding dress for her niece. The neighbor had to agree, and next time will bring her granddaughter to measure dress. Montse just hung up when the doorbell rang. 2 police officers came to investigate the whereabouts of Carlos. They entered the house but found nothing. After learning that Montse never left the house, then they quickly left. After a while, she looked out the window. See a sister talking to a man. Hermana seems to have abandoned him. She firmly turned to leave, but she didn't go home, but took the key. Her sister gave it to Carlos's house. At the same time, Montse expressed her feelings for Carlos, but he did know the truth. He asked her how she would call the doctor. He doesn't need to be healthy, just leave alive. Montse always abused his sister, locked up her sister in her world. Carlos said things that hurt her more. Montse was told to hit the black heart. She burst into tears and ran outside. The father reappears. He sarcasmed her of no value. Even the lame man doesn't love her. Facing his father, Montse was powerless. She swore that she would get rid of him. Hermana was upstairs right now. She did not expect the other woman, also in this house, only after asking questions. The opponent is Carlos's fiancé. The day he ran away was the day of their marriage. Hermana says he is at her house. The girl took back the key. She got out of the house angrily. In addition, she locked the door, keeping Hermana inside. Montse hadn't yet figured out how to do with Carlos. Then suddenly the doorbell rang. Carlos's fiancée came in. She pushed Montse out directly and entered the house. She shouted asking her to get out of her house. The girl turned around with a voice. She will leave with her husband. Montse's attitude immediately changed, begging her not to do so. The girl didn't care, went straight to the bedroom. Seeing my husband sickly lying in bed, then she was surprised. Unexpectedly Montse suddenly went crazy, hit her head with the candlestick. She immediately fell. Carlos shouted she was the killer. Montse rushed to grab his head and hit the edge of the bed. Now the father appeared again. Under his obsession, Montse was completely irrational. She used the saw to cut their bodies. Carlos woke up trying to get out of bed. Drag your feet to crawl out of the room. He slowly walked over to the door. Do not dare to make any sound. It was very difficult to crawl to the door. Carefully open the door. But unexpectedly Montse had latched on the door. She heard coming sounds. Montse did not care about Carlos's plea. Decisively closed the door. Upstairs, while Hermana was looking at the wedding invitation, Carlos's future father-in-law came back. She quickly returned to her home. The house has been cleanly handled by Montse. Carlos was also put to bed again. Hermana did not know what happened. She is also looking for an excuse for her being late. Montse suddenly said he wanted to talk. She finally decided to speak the truth. After my mother passed away, the love-loving father suddenly changes his personality. He sees Montse as his wife. Every night she was breached every night, and she told stories to her sister, because she wanted her to sleep early. Let Hermana not find out about it. She grew more like her mother. Montse for not letting his sister become like me. So he put rat poison in his father's meal. It was a time of war. Also an excuse to explain his disappearance. After his body began to decompose, Montse hid him. When Hermana heard about it, she collapsed completely. She couldn't believe her life was all lies. Hermana sneaked into Carlos's room. His future wife, she guessed, had a problem. Just don't know where she is. Carlos said now that she was pregnant. After a moment, his wound hurts again. Hermana turned over the blanket to see. When he found out that Montse sewed his foot onto the bed, she was about to secretly save Carlos. So she removed the latch to leave the house. The next day the neighbor and niece arrived. But she met Hermana downstairs. Should give her morphine. While he was talking, Carlos broke his glass of water in his room. Screaming for help, Montse rushed to knock him unconscious. At the same time, the neighbor's granddaughter let out a scream. It turned out that the mannequin standing in the room was the body of Carlos's fiancée. The two of you are preparing to run away. Then Montse came back. Her mouth muttered to herself just for protecting this house. Then she took 2 knitting needles, closed the door. By the time Hermana returned, Montse had lost her mind. She threatened her sister to give her morphine. If not, she would kill Carlos. But she's not scared at all. She took the morphine and lured Montse into her room, knocked her out and locked the door. She rushed to save Carlos. 2 people with very hard times came to the door. Then Carlos could not stand anymore. Montse woke up and directly broke the door. She burst out and stomped on Carlos's feet, banging his head against the wall. Hermana rushed in to save him. After being pushed by Montse, she immediately got up and burst into the kitchen. Montse hurriedly chased. Unexpectedly, Hermana stabbed her sister with a knife. Montse fell down and told his sister. When she was born, her father took a picture. It was a picture that Hermana took with her mother, now where Montse hid her father's body. She went to where her sister said she found that picture, but she could not have expected it. The one holding her was Montse when she was a teenager. In the end, Montse died inside Hermana. When she finished making arrangements, she pulled out the seriously injured Carlos. She kissed him one last time then closed the door. But Montse had never fully stepped out. Hermana chooses life exactly like Montse. She will live her life behind that door. The next movie is the end. Do you know the reason why Montse was so mad at killing people? Probably because she was psychologically influenced from a young age, and live in a religious environment. Made her never go out, to contact the world around them. That made her spirit drop even more. So what she thinks as love is protection, but did not expect that it was wrongdoing towards her relatives. Okay, today ends here. See you next time.